Well, hello, hello, hello to our dear community, to our friends. If you are watching this today, that's because you are somebody very, very special in our life. And I am incredibly grateful to welcome you. So, what I would like to do, I'd like to get to know who is out there watching. I would love for you to put a one if you're watching this live in the comments and also where you're watching from. And if you are watching this on the replay, because the replay will be available, put a number two and where you are watching as well. My name's Yvette Uloa. I am incredibly grateful to be your host today. I have a phenomenal couple that's going to be sharing some really, really heartfelt, vulnerable love stories. And what I love most about this is it's that love story that everybody wants to hear and everybody gets inspired to want to know more of because the world really, really does need more positivity. So I want to welcome you. Hello, Miss Brenda. So great to see you from Michigan, all the way from Michigan. What is it like in Michigan today, Miss Brenda? So good to see you. Go ahead and type in the chat. And as we have some more friends joining us, thank you for coming on today. We are all getting out of our comfort zone. We're using a new technology that's allowing us to touch multiple touches. So today we're going to be on YouTube, we're going to be on TikTok, we're going to be on Instagram, we're going to be all across the Facebook platforms. And it's just such an honor to lead this amazing conversation that you are going to hear tonight. It's like fall. That's amazing, Miss Brenda. That is absolutely wonderful. And I see more and more viewers are getting on, and we promised we would start on time. So I have an honor to be on tonight and to be leading this incredible conversation. I'm just the bridge. I wanted to introduce myself. My name's Yvette Uloa. I am a Floridian. Officially, we are in Florida. And just enjoying the beautiful hot weather and enjoying amazing conversations with all of you. I see your hearts. I see all the amazing love you are sending us. If you're watching this live, put a number one and where you're watching from. And if you're watching this on replay, put a number two. And also let us know where you are watching from because we love to say hello. So they do call me the fiery Latina. I do have to warn you guys, I speak with my hands and I also dance with my hands. So I hope that's okay with you. I wanted to let you know ahead of time. I'm just incredibly passionate. And I was born in New York, raised in Bolivia. And throughout my life, I really had that dream of having an amazing relationship. And then I met the love of my life, Mr. Dave Uloa. That was actually 1999. Hello, Mr. Robert Castile, all the way from Las Vegas. And we got Miss Kathy from Georgia in Las Vegas. Miss Anjanette, we got in Las Vegas. And Miss Deanna Bordelon. Hello, hello, hello. I love seeing all your names and your beautiful shares today. We have something so special. And so I was just telling you guys, I met the love of my life, and he was home from vacation. He was from Australia at the time. He lived in Australia, and we became best of friends. Well, through that journey, God had it that Cupid hit us, and we fell madly in love with each other. And he ended up not going back to Australia. Well, then reality got real. And he became a police officer with the LAPD, and I was a government employee. And we loved each other. But something happened at the 2 year mark. We started falling. Was it out of love? We started becoming more like roommates. Put roommates in the chat. If anybody has ever seen that experience where somebody starts out amazing and then roommates, put the word roommates in the chat. We started becoming roommates. We started fighting and arguing. And we had never gone to school to have a great relationship. We hadn't learned it from our parents. We saw a lot of dysfunction growing up. And so we loved each other, but we didn't know what to do. And that set us on a huge journey to change and transform the quality of our life and the quality of our marriage because we were going the opposite way very, very fast. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. And as you guys come on to the webcast, type in your name. Let us know. Put a number one if you're watching live. Put a number two if you're watching on replay, and also where you're visiting us from. So let's get to some of the juicy stuff. To make a long story short, Dave and I went on a whole journey to change our life and change our relationship. We studied from the best teachers all over the world. We certified, but most importantly, we became our first clients and we recreated our life. We became like honeymooners. We became lovers again. And so we've made it our life's mission to help other couples have that same deep soul connection. And so I have the utmost honor to introduce to you this incredible couple that lives life to the fullest. I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a minute and share their own background and story. But if you can imagine what is possible from this interview today, I have the honor of introducing to you Mr. David and Mrs. Jenny Cook. So let's put some hearts, let's put some waves, let's put some emojis in the comments and give them so much love. And David and Jenny, if you guys don't mind introducing yourselves in a minute or two, just giving a little bit on your background and who you are.
You bet. Yvette, thank you for saying all of that. It was enjoyable just listening to you and your story as well. But yes, my name is David. This is my beautiful wife, Jenny. So I grew up in Atlanta or the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. So I was born and raised in the South. From that point forward, after I went off to college, I had this desire to never live there again. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to travel all over and all that kind of stuff. But life kind of got in the way. Got married, got divorced, got married again, had kids. Life just kind of put all that on the back burner. But my wife and I figured out a way to make it work. And we now travel full time, just living all over the country, just living a dream in every way possible. So with that, I'm going to let my wife talk a little bit about what she would like to share, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, everybody. Again, Jenny Cook, and I grew up in Michigan, little town, and little hand over here, a little town called Pinckney, and of course, I wanted to see the world in a little different way. Starting at 19, I started dating a guy that I knew from high school, and we were really good friends. And we decided to get married because he was joining the military, and we were going to go see the world that way. And so at the ripe old age of 19, I got married, and we were going to go see the world because, you know, you're super smart and know everything that you want to know when you're 19. And so, like David said, a lot of turmoil, a lot of ups and downs. Of course, had a divorce, and then David and I met, and we're traveling now. Like he said, I'm a nurse. Went back and got my RN, and did that for most of my career. But now we're living the happier times. So.
Oh, thank you guys so much for sharing. And I absolutely love that you get to travel full time. And so do you consider yourselves nomads?
100%.
Absolutely.
We live a nomad lifestyle. We are both fortunate enough that we both work from home. I do a lot of stock trading, Forex trading, have my own business, but also do some computer programming in the healthcare industry. And like my wife said, working as a nurse, she actually gets to work, case manager?
Utilization review,
that kind of stuff.
Management.
But it's all done on the computer, so she's able to work from home too. So as long as we've got a good Wi-Fi internet, we can live pretty much anywhere we want. And that is a perk of living in this day and age.
That is absolutely amazing, you guys. Thank you so much for being on and also being able to share your vulnerable story with so many people, because there are so many people right now that are down on their knees, that Perhaps they think it's the end of their relationship. Maybe they're praying to God for change and transformation. And so I really, really am so grateful for your story and your relationship journey. So, would you tell us a little bit about your relationship, your personal relationship journey?
You want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned before, I got married at 19 to a really, really good friend. We were really good friends, but of course, neither one of us what we wanted. He came from a lot of tragedy in his house, split families, stepdad, step-parents, a lot of abuse, things like that. Of course, I had my own stuff going on. And then we were very young, and military life isn't easy. It's not a lot of money. And so, of course, we got stationed in Hawaii, and I immediately got pregnant. So we had our first child. I was 20 when I got pregnant. Of course, had her a little bit after I turned 21. And about that time, as life goes on, there was some infidelity on his part, and there was some abuse, and just temperaments, volatile, all of this. He decided to get out of the military, and we moved back to the mainland. And I found out I was pregnant with my son. And at that point in our relationship, we were just roommates. We were not getting along. The abuse had increased, lots of infidelity, things like that. And so, of course, that marriage ended. And so here I was as a single mom, 2 kids, no school, just what was I going to do? And I moved back to Michigan because at the time we were living in Nashville. I moved back to Michigan and decided to go back to school to get my RN, and with some support from my family, but I'm pretty much winging it and doing it on my own. My dad was helping out a lot, would watch the kids if need be, but it was difficult. And on the first visit that my kids had to go see their dad over the holidays, because I don't think there's a mom out there that plans to have kids and then not spend the holidays with them. I was on my knees crying and praying and just beside myself. So I got on the computer and I looked up a divorce support group. This was back in dial-up days, AOL, the dial tone. And I found a Christian-based divorce support group that just people would post kind of like a blog, their little messages, and you could respond like a board, I suppose. And I ran across a message from David. And I thought, oh, we have a lot in common. So I'll go ahead and just respond to this. And just because I knew where he was coming from, his daughter was visiting her biological mom for the holidays as well. And so we were both in that same boat. And we chatted back and forth a little bit. I actually had a fear. I thought, oh, this is not the time that there was online dating. And I thought, what are you doing? You just got divorced. Like, you don't know this person. No. And so I kind of was ghosting a little bit, not getting on the computer very, very much. But eventually we started talking, and he asked for my phone number, and we just started developing a friendship. And
For 6 months.
6 months, we just talked, and there was nothing else, just talking. And we, of course, exchanged pictures and things like that. But we decided, we kind of confessed to each other that we were growing feelings, and that was great. And so I said, okay. I talked to my mom, and she can vouch for this online. I was like, well, I've got 2 kids. Well, what if he's like a crazy axe murderer or whatever? I don't want to meet him. And she's like, I will meet him. And so my mom actually met him in person before I did, because he drove out to her house.
Wow.
And so that in case, she's like, it's just me. So if he's crazy, it'll just be me and you don't have to worry about the kids. So she took one for the team. Thank you, Mom, again for that. And he went out to meet her, and that was that. We started we started dating, I moved to Georgia to make a go out of it. Again, very scary and not something if my daughter were to do that, I would be really mad at her. Like, what are you thinking? And so, but I was just like, I prayed for specific things. It was kind of funny. Like God checked all those boxes and I thought, okay, God, lead my feet where I need to go. And so we did. We took a chance and we jumped in and it was blissful. We saw everything. We had both been through some trauma and we just knew that we were never going to get another divorce and we were in it for the long haul. And then reality started hitting.
Wow.
Like to share your side?
Wow. Thank you, Jenny. And just a clarifying question. How old were the kids at that time?
Let's see. Julia was 6 and Gage 2.
Wow.
Savannah was 3.
Yes, Savannah was 3. So his daughter was 3. So I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Well,
Wow.
5-year-old. They're like 3.5 years apart. So
Got it. Thank you for that, Jenny, because, a lot of the people that are listening today, they have blended families. Blended families is a reality and is almost the way things are going for most marriages today. So I can't even imagine, having that difficulty of coming together was one. But then the second thing is the reality of the children that are also involved coming into this blended arrangement. So I really, really want to honor you and thank you for sharing, because how many people in the audience have actually, experienced infidelity or abuse? And those are two of the toughest things to deal with in a relationship. And if you are going through something like that, I hope that you are getting help, especially if there is abuse in the relationship, because there is something that we call the crazy 8, where there's like the anger, and then there's a honeymoon, and then it goes back to the anger, and then it goes back to the honeymoon, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So, Jenny, kudos to you for having the courage to walk away, because I know it can be really, really hard.
I did not want to. He was seeing another person at that time, and so it kind of was more forced on me to be in transparency, because I didn't want my kids to come from a broken home. Despite all of the other stuff that was going on, I just thought if I did better, then it would get better. Yeah. And if I tried harder, or if I cooked the right meals, or whatever it was, I just thought if I were enough, then it would stop. And of course, so in fairness, he was seeing, so I kind of didn't have a choice. It was just like, there can't be a third person in our marriage here. This isn't good. And like I said, the physicality had gotten worse. And so it just kind of, I didn't really have a choice, and it's time. So I definitely, no judgment on that, because I never thought I would be that person that would just stay as long as I did, given that situation. Yeah. But again, I didn't want my kids to come from a broken home, and I thought somehow I could fix it.
Thank you for sharing, Jenny. That is such a reality in today's day, where a lot of people make huge sacrifices because of the kids. And thank you for sharing vulnerably. And now, David, let's hear your side of the story. Tell us a little bit about your relationship background.
So my first wife and I met in high school. We were, quote unquote, high school sweethearts. So therefore, it was destined to be. The thing is she actually had a child already out of wedlock. And I grew attached to her son. A young guy in high school going into college and all that, having a kid was not something that really was part of the plan at that age. But, I got along with him really well, and I really developed a nice bond with him. And even though there were a lot of red flags in that relationship, and I had a lot of friends kind of pointing out those red flags to me, I felt an obligation that I needed to stay with her for her son, because he didn't have a dad and he didn't have anybody else in his life. And for whatever reason, it just laid on my heart heavy that I just felt I needed to be there. I needed to step up for him. And I did. love his mom. And so because we had been together throughout most of my college career, I just decided to ask her to marry me, and we got married. And you know, when you're that young, high school, college age, all of that, you really don't have an idea of what love really is. You think you do. And it's not to say that people can't make it work. It's just a lot of people change a lot over those years as you get older and older, and you kind of start to become the person you really are meant to be. Well, after we got married, it became very apparent very quickly. My ex liked the newness of being married, but she didn't like the same old of being married. And unfortunately, it started a downward spiral in our relationship. And being a guy, I didn't tell anybody because you're not supposed to. Guys don't talk. That's just not the way it is. You hide your feelings, you just be a man, and that's it. And while I was watching my marriage basically fall apart for a number of different reasons, I just was sitting there quietly, just trying to do whatever I could to just try to keep it together because I thought that's what I needed to do. So I didn't tell my parents. I wasn't telling my best friend. Nobody really knew. And then 3 years into our relationship, we had a daughter. And I thought, okay, well, this will do it. This will make it okay. We're going to be fine. We got a kid now. We're good. Everything's going to mellow out and be perfect. Yeah, same sort of pattern happened. She liked the idea of being pregnant. She liked the attention it gave her. She liked that aspect. Once our daughter was born, she really pulled away. She wanted to immediately go back to work. Not that she didn't love her daughter. She did. It's just she had a different feel toward a lot of that stuff. And so, funny enough, I quit my job at that time and stayed home with my daughter to help raise her. And I was working in the music industry, so I was able to do some work at home anyway. But it was definitely a readjustment. I quit my job. I had no insurance other than what my wife at the time had. But I was raising that daughter. So the bonding that normally happens between the mother and the daughter actually was happening between me and my daughter. Those midnight feedings were me. And I was, of course, there raising her son as well, helping him and working through things. But eventually the same patterns, the same problems that she had kept coming up. And literally one day I tried to call her at work and she hadn't been there all day. She apparently had been with somebody else. And when she came home that afternoon or that morning, she says, "I'm done with the marriage." She packed her things. I literally had about 15 minutes to say goodbye to her and, watched her walk out the door. And now I'm sitting here going, great. I have no insurance. I have no reliable job, at least where I have a steady income coming in. I have my daughter. At the time, she left her son with me too. And I'm like going, what in the world is this nightmarish mess that I've just put myself in? And of course, then it was a shock to everybody when I had to call them and let them know, yeah, we're not together anymore. So sorry. Surprise. And, I had to start to kind of come clean on a lot of things. But she had just kind of really alienated me away, kind of said, don't talk to your family. Don't, she didn't like me talking to my friends. She just had a very, let's say manipulative, but she had a way of just kind of making me just kind of pull back from who I normally am, being outgoing and talkative, to where I just kind of became more reserved and quiet and just kind of just kept to myself. So that when this did happen, I literally had no support system. I had nobody to talk to. Nobody knew what was going on. And, I was just in a world of hurt. So to shorten that story, eventually she did come back to get her son and took him. But when I went to court, the judge decided to give me full sole legal custody of my daughter. And that was that. I was now raising this girl on my own. I was struggling to find steady work. There were months where if I got some ramen noodles, that's pretty much what I ate for the week. That was it. So a lot of y'all, if y'all are out there and you're struggling financially, again, right now things are not great financially in the world. I feel you, but you will survive. You will get through it. You might skip a few meals. They might not be the best, but somehow things will work out. They always do. But it was during that low moment, several months had passed after the divorce. Jenny, mentioned it. I just happened, you just kind of think, you got to understand, we believe in God. We're proud Christians for this. There's no doubt in our mind, we were destined to meet. And even though she was in Michigan, I was in Georgia, we were destined to meet. And this was how God made it happen. And it was a divorce support group. And I mean, one of hundreds that were out there. And how we found it, we don't know. How I found her post, how she found my post out of the thousands that were on there, can't tell you, but it happened. What I will add, which is kind of funny, a few years after we got married, we thought, you know what, we're going to go back on that page and let them know, hey, guess what? We know you weren't supposed to be dating on this site, but
strict rules.
Yeah.
No dating.
we just want to let you know we connected and we've been married and everything's going great. Yeah, that site would no longer exist.
Oh my!
We searched for years looking for it and never could find it. So again, to us, it just reconfirmed that God gave us that vehicle for us to meet. So here we are. As Jenny said, we talked for 6 months. We were both gun shy, after divorces. We were like, what are we doing? We've got kids. How are we going to make this work if she's in Michigan and I'm in Georgia? I mean, all these questions. She was going back to school. I was still trying to find a steady job. There was nothing in this that said, oh yeah, you two should definitely get in a relationship. Other than that's what our hearts told us to do. And so, I would love to tell y'all, we got together and it was perfect. It was, like we said, God ordained. And so it was blissful and there were no problems, but that would truthfully be a lie. Because we both came from a divorce where we both had suffered a lot in those relationships, we both had serious baggage. Huge baggage that neither of us were paying any attention to, of course.
We talked about it. We're like, okay, well, we talked about all the things that we thought we were afraid of and tried to be as honest and transparent as at the time we thought we were being completely vulnerable and transparent. But that was not the case. That was not the case at all. I even went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to trust him. And if I had to put a number on it, I wasn't logically thinking this way, but like 90%. But I'm going to keep this part back for myself. And he has to love me a little bit more.
91%.
Yeah, he's got to love me a little bit more. Like, I kept that wall there to protect myself. And I knew I was doing it, but I couldn't chance that again. And so as long as I loved him, 91% or 90% or whatever, it would be fine, right? It would be wonderful. Except it wasn't. So
we went through the honeymoon phase. It was great at first.
So wonderful.
We had somebody, we understood each other after literally spending 6 months just talking. That was a very unique way of dating to start it. So we knew each other as well as we thought we could. So we had that conversation part already down when we finally got together. It was just such a relief to finally be with somebody that felt connected, had the same values, all these things that we were like, oh, this is going to be great. And it was like a new honeymoon with 3 kids involved. But we made the best of it and we poured our hearts into it and, we got the kids all in school and we were balancing it out. I got a good job. Wasn't great, but it was good enough for what we needed. So things were just starting to kind of click. She was finishing up her nursing degree, which, by the way, any of y'all that are out there that are married or in relationships and one of y'all are going through nursing school, my prayers are with you. Hang in there. It is probably the hardest. It is probably the hardest thing on any marriage that there is out there. Going through nursing school while you're married is unbelievably difficult. So I have all the respect for all of you that are going through it. We had some bad fights because of it. But we pulled through that. We got through it all. We were like, yep, everything's going good. But then about 2, 3 years in, we just started noticing a lot of those same patterns kept coming back. A lot of the mistrust, a lot of the arguments. And of course, now we're dealing with the fact that we, as similar as we were in a lot of ways, we didn't parent the same way. And I ended up actually being more permissive, allowing the kids to get away with things than she was. But it was more so because with the girls, they had me wrapped around their little finger. I was to do no wrong. Gage, I was a little more harder on because I'm like, I got to teach him how to be a man. She was the exact opposite, and we would butt heads, and the kids are smart. They would play us against each other, and they had their other parents to play us against as well, And so there was all these dynamics that were coming into it that were playing on our insecurities and our fears. Am I good enough as a spouse? Am I good enough as a parent? Am I doing this right? Oh my gosh. And then of course, then you got all the financial issues and raising 3 kids. And, the weight of all of that really started to push us down. And a lot of the triggers, a lot of the trauma, a lot of the things that we had been hiding started coming right back up to the surface at that point.
We made it to about 2009, and coincidentally, nursing school, wrapping up my degrees and everything. And we had it just weeks of fighting, weeks. And I mean, not just days, weeks, and not talking, and the silent treatment and threatening, not, well, if you don't like it, go ahead and leave, just acting like you don't care, those kind of things. And then we got to the point where we were just hours away from divorce. I mean, it was bad.
So yeah, if y'all, just for 1 second, we're going to be really real. We don't share this very often, but we had one fight that went so bad that we had to have the police called to our house. No physical violence, but the yelling and the threatening back and forth got so out of hand. We had neighbors, somebody had the police called. They came out to our house and they flat out told us, one of y'all need to leave for the night. You got to calm down. This is just not good with the kids around and all that kind of stuff.
I was chucking his musical stuff out the window, the 2-story window onto the driveway below. I'm gonna be transparent, guys. Like, I was having a major rage moment, and I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but musical instruments are very fragile and they shatter brilliantly. And so if you toss them out a window, I mean, not only do they explode, they just like burst, and it's very dramatic. And so, I was chucking that stuff out the window in a fit of rage in front of my children. Just Jerry Springer show kind of situation.
Wow. And Jenny, if you don't mind me interrupting, because a lot of people are hearing this from all over the country, and how many people have had that moment, that rage moment where you lose control and you throw things out the window. I know I've had that in my own marriage where I don't even know who I am. And then I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I causing so much distraction? And ladies, there is something that we call the rage monster. And men can have a version of it too, but it is something that builds up, and it's overwhelm because we're running in a different pattern that's not healthy for us. And one day there's just an explosion. So put in the chat explosion if you have ever seen somebody have a rage monster attack. And I want to thank you, Jenny, for your vulnerability, and David as well for sharing this moment that was so sensitive to you guys. And go ahead and tell me what else happened at that moment.
So he took the police officer's advice and he left for the night. And I had really since that moment where my my kids went on their first visit with their biological dad, did I have one of those middle of the living room on my knees, crying to God, going, I don't want to be here again. I don't want to do this again. What do I do? What do I do? And for me, the answer that I got is I was the person that kind of, man is not a plan, right? And I'm not going to let him know that I care. And so this very aggressive, do it my way or hit the door, Jack kind of attitude had emerged. And so my message that I felt was, it's now or never. You be vulnerable and you tell him how you really feel and let him see your heart, or this is done. And so that was my plan. Now, we kind of going backward, we followed on our anniversaries, like year 1, year 2, they're traditional gifts that you get. And the first year was paper. And we had bought a journal that we had over the years, had multiple journals at that point, but just wrote day-to-day stuff. We kind of journaled in it, but it was sort of love notes to each other, things like that. And then as the years had progressively gotten worse in our marriage, we hadn't really opened those books. So I pulled those journals out and I just started writing my feelings down and how I felt about our marriage and my sadness and loneliness and things like that. And he came back the next morning and I know this is a big shocker, but he didn't trust me. He didn't trust that I was like madly in love with him and I just wanted to make it work now. And so he was very cold, very distant, very disconnected. And it was hard. It made me feel diminished and defeated, but I thought, what's my option? I either have to fight now and maybe it's too late, or our marriage is over. I mean, we were at that point, he said, well, I'll stay because I promised God I wasn't going to get a divorce, but I don't love you. Like it was out on the table. I was like, well, I don't really love you either, but I do somewhere deep down, yeah, sorry.
No, you're okay. I do want to add something here because when I left, I really assumed that was it. We were done. There was no coming back from that. You don't come back from when the police are called to your house. That just doesn't happen, And so I was preparing myself. How am I going to pick up my life again and make this work? And we are here today because of my wife. I would love to tell you that I was the man and I stood strong and I was the one that pulled it all together, but it was her. Because when she called me that night, we did talk on the phone, she laid all her cards out on the table. She bared her heart in a way that I hadn't seen in years. And she made herself completely vulnerable. And it spoke to me in such a way that I thought, okay, I'm going to go back tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to go back to, but I'm going to go back home tomorrow. And, it's like you just finished a round in the boxing ring. You just got to the corner and you got refreshed a little bit. And now you're warily going back out there and looking at this guy going, okay, where's the next punch coming from?
Don't punch me in the face. Don't punch me in the face.
How are we going to handle this? And that's really where I was at. But as cautious as she was, she never stopped just being open. She never stopped just saying, no, I want to make this work. I'm going to figure out how to make this work for us. And that was her mantra during that time. And I, again, would love to tell you, the Holy Spirit came over me and I was like, oh, this is it. We were reborn to make this work. Everything's going to be good. No, I made her work at that for 6 months. Yeah, I'm the bad guy on that. I did. I made her work for 6 months because I didn't believe her. She told me for years, get out, leave, go. And I just didn't trust it. And but she didn't waver. She never stopped.
Wow.
And I eventually came around one day and I thought, what am I doing? Do I not believe that God meant for us to be together? Yes. And is she not just literally showing everything that she has? She's put all her cards on the table. She has everything to lose. What am I doing? And it was that one moment that I finally thought, and it was again, God just kind of talked to me. I was like, either I need to step up and be the man that she needs me to be and put everything in 100%, regardless of whether she burns me or not. I give 100%. Or I need to quit because I don't have the right to string her on like that. And so after having that conversation with God and felt that on my heart, I just came into the kitchen or the dining room area where she was. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. We are here because of you. We might have been 50-50 in breaking this, but we are here because of you. And I'm going to honor you for that. And I want to tell you what I've seen over these 6 months. And so I am here to give you everything that I have. And I'm going to be just as vulnerable and I'm going to put it all out on the table. And if you're willing to give me that shot, like you've been saying, then I will step up and be that man that you need. And again, I would love to tell you that from that point forward, it was perfect. And the birds sang and the critters of the forest all came around and cheered with us. And it was a Disney fairy tale. It was a struggle for years.
Wow.
But we both had that commitment. We both said, you know what? We're not divorcing. We're going to make this work. We don't know what the heck we're doing, but we do love each other.
Wow.
That got us through some really dark times.
Wow. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And if you're watching this, how many of you have received a threat of leave? You don't like it, leave, right? And there's usually a lot of hurt behind a statement like that. It's more like stay and show me you love me, right? But we will say things and do things that we don't mean just because we don't know any other way. So if you guys were to summarize after that police officer incident and then you waited the 6 months and you decided to really fully come together, how many years were in between that and your very first decision to go to Warriors and Queens? And just give me a short little summary of what happened during those years.
So yeah, it was a few years between that moment, because that was back in 2009 when that happened.
Wow.
Warriors and Queens, what was that, 2019? 18? 19?
Yeah,
Somewhere
when
there.
we started the pre-Warriors and Queens, about
Somewhere
2000.
there. So yeah, you're talking about a 9-year, 10-year span to get the
Wow.
Warriors and Queens. So we limped along.
Not well.
We made it work as best we could. But best way I can describe it, we settled. This was as good as it was going to be. She's my friend. We are intimate sometimes. We are here for the kids.
We love each other.
I love her. She loves me. But that passion, the way we talk to each other, there was just something missing during those years. We had enough.
It was good
to make it okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. But it was not great. And we were not connecting the way that I think God really wanted us to connect.
And in the background for me, there's still a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. Well, it took me this long just to even get him on board to stay. He's just placating me. He doesn't really want to stay. At any given moment, he's going to walk out the door. He's going to realize, he's going to wake up and realize, for me, like I'm not enough, or I'm, he doesn't really love me. He'll see the real me. And then what? Then where am I? So I was running on a fear-based level a lot.
Because I had left. The police told me. So I had left one time. So that became her defining moment. And her fear then became centered around that. Well, he left one time. He could leave again. And it didn't matter what I could say at this point. I couldn't fight that because it did happen. I could say, well, look what's happened since 2000. I haven't left. We've fought, but we've made up and we're making it work. But I couldn't chip away at that. That was kind of like the albatross around our neck, you know? And that was just one of those things, was just holding us back from reaching our true potential of what our relationship could be. We had other things that we weren't even really talking about and dealing with from our first marriages, and all these things still wrapped up into all of that. And we had other issues that had blown up, we won't go into right now, dealing with our kids and all these things. So there was just stuff just constantly just kept, dumping us. But we did stay together. We knew we were supposed to be together. We felt that.
We were going to put that square peg in that round hole no matter what. Like, it was going to stay. Like, God ordained this. And so therefore, even though this is difficult and hard and not super fun, this is as good as it gets. Because our marriage really, compared to a lot of people that we were around, was a lot better, at least on the surface, kind of social media land sort of thing, And for several people that we knew, it was better, So I'm thinking, well, we're at least in the upper 75th percentile of marriages. So, hey, that's better than most, right? So,
and we did kind of look at it as a badge of honor. Look, we survived 2009, so we can survive anything. We made it through. That was our moment. We've made it through, so we're not going to give up now for anything else that comes forward. But yeah, there was just no passion between us. It just wasn't that fairy tale marriage that everybody wants to have, And it's interesting. It was in those later years that we actually saw you and Dave at an event, and you two came out on stage together and y'all did a dance.
Yeah.
Very unplanned dance, by the way.
Yes. But the way y'all talk to each other, my wife and I were in the stands and we were just like,
didn't know who you were.
I mean, we knew loosely who y'all were,
right,
but we weren't friends. We didn't know y'all. You don't know us for anybody. And we just looked at each other. We're like, we want that. Whatever they've got, we want that. They've been married for a long time. I mean, like what's different for them versus where we're at? And so while we're at this business conference for something completely unrelated to our relationship, we're just both sitting there in the stands like this going, what?
Because it felt different. Yeah. You can see people, and it might just be a surface thing. And we had seen other couples that were like, they seem to have a good marriage, but it didn't feel authentic. And I'm like, we're not really super, like, we're in the middle of the stand somewhere, you guys are not, and we could still feel it felt authentic to us. I'm like, well, we need to figure out more about these people. Like, I would like to know what they have that we don't.
And so then out of, again, the way God works, y'all all of a sudden post out there just out of the blue, hey, we're looking for people to talk about relationships with. We have some questions and things. And I was just like looking at my phone when I saw that. I'm like, what? Okay. So I wrote to y'all, and next thing you know, we started kind of hearing a little bit more about y'all's story and things. And, I don't know how much you want me to get into the moment, but that one thing led to another, where y'all mentioned, hey, we're going to do a Warriors and Queens event, live event. Would y'all like to come? And I didn't say anything, but my wife was like, oh yeah, we're totally going to go do that. And I was just like, oh, okay, sure, why not?
Wow, you guys.
We have our before and after 2009. And then we have our before and after the first live event.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing it. I think you guys are giving people so much hope for what's possible. And you guys chose to stay married because of your covenant with God. But in your own words, you had those 9-10 years of just living without a whole lot of passion or love, or just the way God designed our marriages to be. You were settling because you just didn't know any better. And I just really honor you guys for sharing, number one, because it is those vulnerable shares that will help impact somebody that's crying right now, somebody that's praying, somebody that's listening that has no hope. And it's so funny that you guys talk about that life changing moment when Dave and I were at this arena talking, because so many things went on bad that weekend for us. I lost my suitcase at the airport. I left it inside. I couldn't get it. It had my whole gear for the weekend because I was speaking on stage on Friday. Then Dave forgot his laptop inside the convention center, so he couldn't practice his talk. And so the new talk that he put together in a little paper was called Covenant versus Contract. It was not the talk he was supposed to give originally on sales skills. He decided to talk about having a covenant mindset, even in business. And he gave examples of our marriage because we were going through the fire. I had been diagnosed with an incurable tumor in my jaw. I was facing this horrific surgery. His dad had just gotten killed. So it was one of the worst years of our life. But like you guys said, it was also one of the best years of our life, because that is when we decided to dive in and study and learn from some of the top people in the world on relationships, because we needed to heal ourselves before we could help other people. So David actually answered one of my first requests as we were starting to research and interview couples, because we had to go through a whole year certification. And I can't tell you guys the amount of work that we write research papers, analyze, interview, speak, teach, train in front of our mentor to make sure that we knew the content. And you guys were a part of the beginning. So let's talk about, you guys go to Warriors and Queens. Tell us what happens. Warriors and Queens, by the way, is a live event that we do. We have one coming up in 3 weeks. It's only once a year. And it's a transformational weekend for people who want to have better relationships. So tell us what happened.
You were me.
I'm so excited.
No, well, okay, so I'll start real quick, and then I'll let Jenny share. Transformational is the best word you can say. It gave us hope again. We got to see like-minded couples that were really striving for the same thing that we were looking for, which was so refreshing. Because it's not like we didn't have friends. It's just most of them had settled too. And most of them were just like, yeah, whatever, it's just marriage, you just suffer through it. And that's just not how we wanted to live, but that's just all we were around. And so we got to go to this event and we got to see and hear other people that were like thinking like us, and they wanted something more. They were struggling. They had problems too. If any of y'all go to the live event, you're going to hear people with problems. That is part of it. But you could see it. They were all hungry for something. They wanted more. They wanted something. They wanted that covenant relationship that they were desperately looking for. We were looking for that. And for us, what changed was how we talk to each other. The language, the communication skills that y'all shared were off the charts. Our fights that went for days and weeks before, like we mentioned, went down to just minutes. Because we now had a language that we could use to support each other. And there was one thing, a mantra that I had heard that I just started saying every time we had a fight. My mantra just became, Jenny, I am not the enemy. Because I wanted her to know we might agree. Promise I am not the enemy in this.
Like eye to eye, lift my chin.
Lovingly.
And I'm like, don't touch me. And he'd say, I'm not the enemy. And I sometimes come back snarkily, yes, you are, or whatever else. But it was a soul touch, because that's what I wanted. I don't want you to be my enemy, but I'm really mad right now. So keep saying that in about 10 more minutes, let me get through this or whatever. And so those skills, huge. I wanted the connection. I needed our connection back. I am physical touch, hands, I'm a physical touch girl. And so I needed our connection, our intimacy back to where he was like my partner in everything. And I didn't want to be vulnerable enough. That was a huge thing, even coming into it, even after the Warriors and Queens event, when we thought we're going to go further into this program. I remember looking at David and going, I don't want to be vulnerable to people I don't know. It's really scary. I was like, I can't. And the people that were sharing their stories, I wanted to so badly share something. And it was scary. And I didn't want to be vulnerable to a room full of strangers. But that, again, back to 2009, when I became vulnerable, that's when I started healing. And that's when our marriage started healing. And so I got on board with that a little bit. And it is still scary. And I still don't like it. But that's where I get the most healing, is with that transparency and that vulnerability, and saying, hey, I don't like the word broken, but we're messy too. We still very, very messy. But like David said, we don't have those week-long fights or hour-long fights even. Now, that's not to say we're perfect, because, for example, this morning, we got into a huge fight, argument.
Yeah, it was not a screaming, yelling fight. It was, I did something wrong that hurt her. And
Deeply.
She held it in. I didn't realize it at the time. And it wasn't until this morning when she's like, I need to talk. I was like, oh, okay, cool. What you going to talk about? Just step right in that one.
Because it wasn't a conceal. It wasn't to get him. Because of Warriors and Queens, why did that hurt me? David isn't a bad guy. He loves me. I know this. Even though my head is telling me, nope, he's making his getaway. I mean, we've been married, 22 years, together 24. And I still worry he's trying to make his getaway, So that little old record was playing, and I thought, oh, why do I feel that? And I had to think about it. And I had to think about, why am I feeling this? What are you really feeling? Because, of course, mad. I'm just mad. It's his fault. He did this and he did that. And that's one of the things I've learned for myself in Warriors and Queens is, yes, he did do something, and it was very hurtful. But how am I showing up? What's on my side of the street? How can I best talk to him? And so that's how I came to him this morning. I was like, I'm really, really hurt. And this is what I feel. May I share how I'm feeling? And he took it. And when I got it all out, he didn't get defensive. He didn't shoot me down. And even when I spiraled a little bit, because those anger and the fear was there, he stayed strong and steady and just listened and apologized for what his part was in it. And I had to apologize for being messy and just springing it on him while he's still bleary-eyed. I wake up at 4:00 in the morning, happy, chipper, and very talkative. He doesn't quite get there till about 11 a.m.
Coffee.
He's like, shh. So the fact that I sprung it on him at 6 a.m., because that's as long as I could hold it in, was not really fair. But he held it like a champ, and he stepped into what he knew in his language. And we utilized those tools that we learned. We didn't miss our morning walk. There was no screaming. There was hugging and kissing involved, and appreciation afterward. Like, he made me so mad and hurt and upset, but I was able to say, hey, thank you. I had gratitude because he just listened and held his spot and didn't get defensive. And we wouldn't have done that in all those years we limped along. And so by 9:00 this morning, we're just joking around and laughing like it was not a big deal. And that's, you can't.
That in a nutshell, you can't put a price on that. You can't. And that's the techniques and the language that we learned from the live event and that we apply today, this morning. Honestly, how many of y'all are struggling out having fights that just go on and on? If I could tell you that there is a way you can make those stop, you might have to focus on yourself and fix some of your own things to make this work.
A lot of self-work.
But how much is that worth to you? For us, there's no amount of money I wouldn't pay now that I know this stuff, because it's that integral into our life. Our marriage today is so different than what it used to be. We have that relationship. The memes you see of the little old people that are dancing in the street, and you just look and go, God, I just wish that's us. We're those goofy older people that we don't care anymore. We like to be what we call just on our honeymoon. Yeah, we're traveling a lot. Cool. We're in the airport. We're acting like we're newlyweds. We don't care. We don't care what anybody else thinks. We're having fun. We love each other. That is what the live event has given to us, is that in this work has been able to show us a way to bring our relationship to that magical level that we wanted. Is it perfect? No, we're human. Just like today, I made a mistake. I did something that really hurt my wife. And you know what she said when she brought all this up, after she got out her emotional side of it, of everything was wrong? She looked at me and she said, but I know you. And I know you're probably hurting even worse than I am right now, because you hate hurting me. Really?
I felt sorry for him. I'm like, I can't really be that angry, because if the roles were reversed, it would devastate me if he shut me out and I'm angry at you and all these things. My heart opened up, and I'm like, I love you. I'm angry, and I know you're hurting too. And it's probably, he wants to protect me, and he that was bothering him. And so I acknowledge that. Thank you for those things. And it's going to work out, but I have to have this storm right now. And I'm triggering, and it's swirling around, and I know it's not true, but I still have these fears. And because of the situation, I'm having a moment, and it worked.
It worked.
Wow.
It worked because it worked.
But it isn't a magic pill, because when we were in Colorado about a year ago, we had, it was a little longer. I got to say that fight lasted a couple, till the next day, but so you have to apply it. You have to put that in, and it's just like learning to walk again. You've done this for so long. You've had these patterns for so long that when you're applying new stuff, it's sort of like, I feel like I'm in my toddler years of marriage. Like, oh, geez, I fell. Okay, get back up, brush yourself off, and just keep moving forward. But if you put that in, you do the work, and you apply the teachings, you can't put,
you can have anything you want,
price tag on that. It's really good. So.
Oh, that is so amazing, you guys. Thank you so much for sharing and for your vulnerability. And here's what we teach. We teach that you are humans. You will have the blowouts, you will have the fights, but guess what? You don't get stuck there anymore, or it doesn't elongate your life and take away energy, and you're exhausted because you've been fighting for a few days and you're giving each other the silent treatment. That goes away really fast when you learn Queen's communication and King's communication, and you get your needs met without manipulation. You get your needs met by speaking that code to your husband and to your wife, and being able to have that partnership. I mean, I see an example of partnership where you guys are like, okay, by 9 a.m. we were walking, laughing, kissing each other. How many people can say we had a big blowout and by 9 a.m. we were kissing and hugging and going on a walk and laughing? That's the whole outcome of Warriors and Queens, to teach partnership, passion, and then purpose. Those are the 3 pillars that you will learn when you come to Warriors and Queens Live. So guys, we're a little bit over our time, but I just wanted to give you guys a few more seconds. Can you share just some of your treasure box of some of the things that you have learned that have impacted your life greatly with Warriors and Queens?
We learned a little thing called HOP, and I use that a lot. If I am stuck and my point is valid and he's stuck and his point is valid and nobody really wants to bend, we do this little technique that we learned, and it just softens it. And suddenly it's not so important to be right anymore. It's not that I'm giving up and I'm letting him win or he's letting me win. It just sort of dissolves a little bit, for the most part, at least until we can have a better, maybe a covenant conversation. We learn that skill as well, so those are probably, and me getting curious and staying on my side of the road. So the path to freedom.
I love all the techniques you're sharing.
Those are my big, staying in, like I said, Queen's language, the hop, and then covenant conversation and path to freedom. I use those all the time. So
wow.
So she shared a lot of things. So I will add to those. Those are all perfect. Those are great things you're going to learn. The one other thing I will mention, though, that is invaluable to me is the friendships that I have developed now. I have a core tribe of men who I can turn to at any point, who understand the communication and understand the language that we're using. I mean, I've got a tribe now. I mean, I know a lot of people out there because I hear it every day. People are lonely. People are like, I just don't have any friends. I don't have any good friends, or they move and they're all alone. That was us, And this work, aside from all the things it's done with our relationship, has given me and my wife this incredible group of friends that we call on a daily basis. We text, we just stay in touch. I'm not alone anymore. We're not alone. It used to be us against the world. It's not anymore. And we have a group.
They're not gonna sabotage your marriage or be like, oh, as a woman, women like to get together and discuss in emasculating ways their husband. And my friends don't let me do that anymore. We don't do that. We build our men up, and it's
wow.
We find other things, and we talk about our own stuff.
So for us, all of those techniques we use, and all those are so valuable, and they will, if you do want this as bad as we did, you will integrate all of those things into your own relationship. But on top of that, man, if you want to know a great group of people and friends and people that will support y'all and lift you up every step of the way, you won't find a better group of people than here through Warriors and Queens. I can assure you, because I have found some of my best friends through this work and treasure every single one of them.
Oh, well, David and Jenny, I can't thank you guys enough for giving of your time and sharing so vulnerably. And one thing that I have just loved watching you guys is just how you have rekindled that deep soul connection. You guys are taking dance lessons. I've seen some of the videos. I see the love between you guys. So just one final share. Tell us about that deep soul connection.
No problem. So yes, this is something that was this was passionate, I guess, for my wife, but also for me, but she was more vocal about it. She desperately felt like we had to have this connection. It just wasn't there. We had the surface stuff, but that really true, deep soul connection, like you said, wasn't there. It wasn't there. And we did not have the tools. The best example I ever gave was, it's like we had a puzzle and we had all the pieces out, but we didn't have the box top where we could see the picture of what it was supposed to look like. We knew it was supposed to look amazing, but we just didn't have that picture. And so we could put a few of the pieces together here and there. We get the border, the border's pretty easy to get, so we could get some of those together, but we were missing that stuff that was in the middle, that stuff that really made the picture come alive. And that is what we were missing. And that's what y'all were able to teach us and to give us techniques and things that brought that passion back out, that now it's nothing. We don't work at that. That connection that we have is there every day when we get up. and when we go to bed. It's just in us now. It is just part of us.
Mm.
And I can't imagine living a life now without it. I didn't realize how bad I needed it until we got it.
I feel safe and like I'm home and set like grounded. So there's the intimacy, there's the partnership, there's a friendship, there's all of that. But I get his power presence, I get his presence, I get his safety and his provision.
Mm.
And I said this when we were in another Zoom meeting or whatnot, but it's sort of like I didn't give up weakness. I thought being vulnerable and being in my feminine, just being his wife would take away some of my power. And instead I'm like the lioness that's hunting, right? And I'm scary and all that all on my own. But behind me, I have my big Lion King who's also got my back. And so I lost none of my power and I gained more. And so I have this huge, I just wake up and when I'm having a vulnerable moment, I'm like, I need a hug. I just need just a moment. And he's just right there. I'm like, okay, I'm good now. Off into the world I go, sort of thing. So it's just this grounding force of safety and happiness and joy that was not there before.
Oh my goodness.
What she said.
You have to bottle that up. But you guys just said, I think it just melted my soul. It pierced my soul. And thank you guys. Thank you for being such incredible ambassadors of this work. Thank you for helping so many people. You guys you have just entered our leadership certification program. Congratulations. And now you're getting ready to go and teach and pour on others and help other people. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing us to go over just a little bit. We appreciate everybody else having the patience to let us share a little bit. It all is from the heart. And, thank you for giving us this time.
Absolutely. And for everybody that is watching, if you want to come with us in a couple of weeks, we have our Live Warriors and Queens event. It is in Florida. And my husband, my dear hubby, put the link there. It's warriorsandqueens.com/live event. And we actually even created a discount code. So if you are watching this during this webcast, it's going to be good for the next 72 hours. The discount code is COOC. COOC for the cooks. And thank you to my honey for setting that up. And Jenny, I'm going to bottle that up, that description of the lioness, because at Warriors and Queens, we preach that you don't lose your power. You already know you have that part of you that's so amazing, success-oriented, but you can also have the best of both worlds. Why sacrifice? Most women sacrifice their relationship for their success, and then some sacrifice their success for their relationship. You can have it all, ladies. You can have the two. You can have an amazing, committed, loving, honoring husband who deeply cherishes you, looks into your eyes and loves you. And you can have that success, career, whatever else that you want in your life. And so, Cindy, thank you. Kimberly, thank you. Thank you, everybody that got on today. We love you. If you want to come to Warriors and Queens, send us a message for the link and the discount code. We will see you guys next week. We're going to do another phenomenal interview. And the cooks, David, Jenny, we honor you. We love you. We see who you are. We see that you are so destined for greatness. You're going to touch millions of lives with your story and also with your focused commitment to this work. Thank you for being a light in this world and such a beacon of inspiration and hope at a time when people need it the most. So thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. We are grateful for this opportunity to share.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you don't believe it, there's Brenda, mom, Jenny's mom, saying, I have seen such a beautiful change in both David and Jenny. I am so very proud of them. I saw how they both were 10 to 15 years ago, and oh, what a beautiful change. Mom, it couldn't have been said better. Thank you for posting that. And everybody, get to know them, follow them on social media, get to know their life. They have beautiful posts and they just live an amazing, beautiful life. One day, you guys will be on that stage, and then there will be somebody in the audience saying, "Who are they? I want our marriage to be like that."
That's awesome.
Thank you guys. Have a beautiful day. Have an amazing Wednesday, everybody. Thank
Bye, bye.
you.